The silver pickup truck looked like it had survived 3 wars and a tornado. Sitting defiantly among the gleaming luxury vehicles at Eagle Point Shooting Complex, Maya Rodriguez stepped out, her platinum white hair catching the afternoon sun like spun moonlight. At 41, she carried herself with the quiet intensity of someone who had danced with death and learned its steps by heart. The hair wasn't age, it was a battle scar. Extreme stress-induced depigmentation, the doctors had called it. A physical reminder of the weight she'd carried in places that didn't exist on any official map. "Aunt Maya, are you absolutely sure about this?" whispered Jessica Chen, her 24-year-old niece. Jessica's camera equipment hung across her shoulder like armor. She was an investigative journalist for Digital Truth, a publication that specialized in uncomfortable questions. Maya's scarred hands adjusted the worn leather rifle case. "I'm just here for moral support," she said dryly. "You're the one with something to prove." The shooting complex buzzed with a kind of energy that only comes from mixing testosterone, technology, and trust funds. Corporate executives in tactical vests posed beside weapons worth more than most people's cars. The monthly invitational had transformed into an unofficial showcase of cutting-edge military technology. That's when the whispers started. "Is that an antique M14? Someone snorted. "Museum pieces belong in museums." Maya didn't flinch. She'd heard worse from people who mattered more. From the VIP observation deck, Alexander Kane watched through tactical binoculars. CEO of Titan Defense Systems and former CIA operations chief, Kane commanded respect with his presence alone. His steel-gray eyes locked onto Maya, and something cold settled in his chest. Recognition wrapped in disbelief. "Get me everything on the woman with the silver hair," he told his assistant, never lowering the binoculars. "There's something familiar about her." The shooting demonstration had devolved into a high-tech arms fair. Competitors showcased rifles bristling with AI-assisted scopes, predictive targeting systems, and carbon fiber everything. Each shot was announced with the fanfare of a product launch. Then Jessica stepped to the scorer's table with a last-minute entry form. "Lane 7, the range officer announced over the intercom. Maya Rodriguez." Conversations dimmed. Maya opened her battered case, revealing the walnut-stocked M14 that looked older than half the spectators. No optics, no bipod. Iron sights that had seen action in conflicts the audience couldn't pronounce. "Easy there, ma'am," someone called out. "Try not to hit the cameras." Maya chambered around with practiced efficiency. The range officer's tablet displayed the challenge. 400 yards, stationary steel target. Nobody else had attempted that distance. Maya settled into position, finding that familiar stillness that had once made her the most feared marksman in Delta Force's most classified unit. The M14 thundered. Bullseye. The scoreboard flashed. Rodriguez, 10 tenths. A ripple of disbelief swept the crowd. Someone demanded they run that again. For her second shot, Maya requested a moving target at 300 yards. The silhouette jerked into motion, sprinting faster than any human could run. Maya waited, stone still, until the target flashed between 2 steel barriers. One shot, center mass. The third shot silenced everyone. "Throw a clay pigeon at 35 degrees, high left," Maya said quietly. "Give me a steel corner to bounce off." The technician's frown deepened. "That's not in our programming. It'll only take a second." The bright orange clay sailed into the evening sky. Maya raised the M14 to her hip, calculated angles that existed only in her mind, and fired. The bullet struck a steel post, ricocheted off a crossbeam, pinged once more off a side support, and shattered the clay into orange dust. For 5 full seconds, nobody breathed. Then chaos erupted. Phones rose like a forest of electronic trees. Within minutes, a clip titled "When Grandma Schools Your $50,000 Rifle" was climbing toward viral status. Maya calmly broke down her rifle, slid it into its case, and walked toward the exit. Her boots clicked against marble with military precision. "Thanks for the opportunity," she said, voice carrying across the stunned gallery. In the VIP section, Alexander Kane's hands gripped the railing until his knuckles went white. Those words, that voice, triggered memories he'd spent 15 years trying to bury. "Phoenix," he whispered to himself. "It can't be." But as Maya disappeared into the corridor, Kane was already reaching for his encrypted phone, about to set in motion events that would drag a buried legend into the light. Jessica's investigation began in a parking lot bathed in Houston's orange sunset. During the drive home, she noticed Maya's unconscious habits, the way her eyes tracked every mirror, every exit, every rooftop. Logistics specialists didn't develop those instincts. That night, Jessica dove into military databases with a journalist's persistence. Maya's service record looked ordinary at first glance. Enlisted 2002, Honorable Discharge 2012, Military Occupational Specialty 92A, Logistics Support. But from 2006 to 2010, 4 years simply vanished. No courses, no deployments, no leave forms, just a single line. Duty assignment. Classified/restricted. Jessica's press credentials opened some doors, but not the ones that mattered. An auto-reply from the Pentagon read, "Access denied. Material designated classified. Special activities clearance insufficient." She pivoted to local archives. In the digitized records of the Mountain Echo, a small Arkansas newspaper, she found a photograph that stopped her cold. A 16-year-old Maya grinning behind an M1 Garand. White hair already shocking against her young face. The caption read, "Local teen sweeps state championship." "My grandfather taught me you only fire when it matters," says Maya Whitlock. "Shooting isn't for showing off, it's for surviving." Strangely, the following year's tournament coverage was missing entirely. Jessica discovered more breadcrumbs in the shadows of the internet. On a closed forum for special operations veterans, she posted a carefully worded query about a female rifle specialist, served overseas 2010, possible call sign Phoenix. One response made her pulse spike. "If you know her, stop looking. She pulled 3 of us out of Kandahar under fire. One shot at 800 meters saved our lives. Her name starts wars in briefing rooms. If she's hidden, there's a reason. Leave the ghost alone." The account vanished before Jessica could respond. The confrontation came on a quiet Sunday night. Jessica spread her evidence across the kitchen table like an accusation. Redacted service records, the championship photo, screenshots of cryptic forum posts. "Whoever you really are," Jessica said, "you are not retired logistics. You're the finest marksman I've ever researched." Maya studied the evidence in silence. Then she walked to the coffee maker, poured 2 cups, and sat down across from her niece. "You found enough," Maya said finally. "But if I tell you the rest, you can't unknow it. You'll have to decide what to do with the truth." "I've already decided," Jessica whispered. Maya nodded once. Part salute, part surrender. "The state championship was my audition," Maya began. "Scouts approached me afterward. Not in uniform, but everything about them screamed authority. They offered a path that bypassed West Point, bypassed all the usual checkpoints. They wanted quiet prodigies, nobody famous, no dependents, no public profile. Kids who could hit a grain of rice at 500 yards and disappear afterward." She described months of brutal selection on a decommissioned base where the serial numbers had been scraped off every door. Graduates wore no tabs or wings, just identical black tags bearing a single letter. P. For an off-ledger detachment of Phoenix Force, a unit that officially didn't exist. "Our missions came from untraceable encrypted drops," Maya continued. "If the president ever asked whether we existed, generals could swear under oath we didn't." "Why would you accept that?" "Because someone would. And at least I knew my line in the sand. I could refuse targets that crossed it." A thin smile ghosted across Maya's scarred features. Or I thought I could. The name she spoke next made Jessica's muscles tighten. Operation Desert Storm. Intelligence labeled it a terrorist training camp. Maya said, her voice growing distant. We were told the compound housed child soldiers carrying rifles and explosive vests. When we infiltrated, the only weapons I saw were sticks used as soccer goalposts. Children in donated Rangers jerseys. UN food crates. No guards, no bunkers, no weapons cache. Maya described how she radioed headquarters for verification. The reply crackled through her earpiece. Proceed with objective. 0 survivors. Command override. The voice delivering that order belonged to then Deputy Director Alexander Kane. I made a choice, Maya continued. I jammed our communication uplink, fired 2 rounds into the sensor mast so overhead drones lost their feed, and ordered my team on a bogus flanking maneuver. Then I stayed behind. Jessica gripped the table edge. You saved them. 13 children. I shepherded them through a wadi, stole a battered pickup, and drove them to a French aid station 90 kilometers west. Maya's voice hardened. Command raged. But there was nothing left to bomb. No hostiles. No photo opportunity. They needed a scapegoat. The unit's commander got reassigned. Maya received a medical discharge under mysterious circumstances. Combat-induced depigmentation disorder. Her jacket was rewritten as logistics because it was easier than court-martialing her publicly. And Kane? Jessica asked. He built an empire on that war. Clean kills, surgical strikes, 0 American casualties. He's on magazine covers while I'm clipping coupons. Jessica stood, papers trembling in her hands. We're going to destroy him. Maya opened a slim notebook and slid a micro SD card across the table. Every radio transmission from that night, she said quietly. Kane's voice ordering the strike. EPS coordinates. Drone thermal imaging showing unarmed children. I couldn't publish it before. Chain of custody was murky. But you can authenticate metadata faster than the Pentagon can redact it. How many people go down with him? Enough to matter, Maya said. Maybe not enough to fix the machine, but enough to jam one important gear. Jessica picked up the SD card, feeling its weight. Not just the plastic and silicone, but the lives it contained, the truth it carried. We'll need redundancy, Maya continued. Dead man switches. Mirrors on data servers. We expose Kane, not the innocent. They planned through the night. Secure VPN tunnels, whistleblower platforms, trustworthy editors. By dawn, they had a strategy that would turn Kane's own publicity machine against him. What do we call the story? Jessica asked. Maya's eyes drifted to the teenage championship photo. Phoenix rising, she murmured. A bird that chooses when to show its wings. Alexander Kane watched the viral clip for the 50th time. Frozen on the moment, Maya shouldered her rifle and turned away. Recognition had crystallized into certainty, and certainty had bred panic. Phoenix was supposed to be buried. In his penthouse office, Kane convened an emergency meeting with his security chief, Marcus Stone, and communications director, Sarah Walsh. That woman, Kane said, tossing a thumb drive onto the conference table. And the journalist beside her. Remove them. Walsh lifted both palms. Sir, the internet's calling her the Silver Sniper. She's trending across every platform. If she disappears, journalists will scream cover up. I didn't say disappear her, Kane growled. I said remove her. Vehicle malfunction on a mountain road, cabin fire. Gas leak. Whatever works. Stone opened his folder, studying surveillance photos. We can stage an accident. Remote area. No witnesses. Make it clean. No traceable ordnance, Kane specified. No surveillance overlap. He glanced at Walsh. And you start seeding skepticism. Push the angle that she's a hired stunt shooter. CGI enhancements. Anything to muddy the waters. Stone closed the folder. I'll activate Viper Team. Lead is Jackson Reeves. Trustworthy, surgical, effective. After his subordinates left, Kane remained in the dim conference light, hands gripping the glass table. Fear crept up his spine. Phoenix alive meant his carefully constructed heroism could implode. Investors would flee. The Pentagon would yank contracts. Congressional hearings would drag him under oath. If she speaks, I lose everything. No algorithm could have predicted the precision of the midnight assault on Maya's cabin. Suppressed rounds shattered windows while smoke grenades filled the air with choking gray fog. Maya rolled off her reading couch, grabbed the sidearm hidden under the coffee table, and sprinted toward Jessica's bedroom. Two figures in dark tactical gear were already there, one firing a taser, the other yanking Jessica upright. The electrical prongs found their mark. Jessica convulsed and went limp behind duct tape. Maya fired twice down the hallway, felt the punch of a subsonic round catch her left shoulder. Pain flared white-hot, but training overrode agony. She dove into the kitchen, pulled a flashbang from her emergency drawer, yanked the pin, and lobbed it across the threshold. The grenade erupted in blinding thunder, but by the time her vision cleared, the intruders were gone. Jessica with them. Maya pressed a kitchen towel to her bleeding shoulder and analyzed the situation with professional detachment. Classic snatch team. 4 operatives, timed intelligence, 0 chatter. They'd leave digital footprints, not physical ones, and they wouldn't keep Jessica alive long. She was leverage, nothing more. Maya limped to her study and produced an old handheld radio, a relic from Phoenix operations. She scrolled through forgotten military channels until encrypted bursts revealed GPS coordinates. A decommissioned microwave relay station 3 miles north. Blood seeped through her field jacket as she loaded the battered pickup. She drove the fire road with headlights dark, parked under trees massive enough to swallow her vehicle's silhouette, and approached on foot. The abandoned relay station buzzed with the flat illumination of a single floodlight. Through shattered windows, Maya saw Jessica bound to a chair, head sagging but breathing. 2 mercenaries patrolled outside. A third filmed the hostage with a phone on a gimbal, live streaming to a remote viewer. Maya picked up a fist-sized rock and pitched it west. The metallic clang drew both perimeter guards away from their posts. She slipped east through a jagged hole in the corrugated wall. The indoor guard never heard her coming. Palm over mouth, blade across the carotid. Swift, silent, final. Jessica lifted her head, eyes wide with relief and terror. Maya pressed a finger to her lips, severed the zip ties, and eased off the duct tape. 5 seconds, she mouthed. A bark from the opposite doorway. All clear? Then boots crunching gravel. Maya balanced on a support beam, angled the M14 with mathematical precision, and fired into a steel column. The bullet ricocheted left off a strut and found the approaching guard's thigh. He collapsed with a strangled curse. The cameraman spun. Maya's second shot drilled his forearm. The phone clattered away. Jackson Reeves burst from an office alcove, submachine gun raised. Maya shoved Jessica low, shouldered the M14 one-handed despite her wounded arm. The recoil was agony, but the round punched through Reeves's weapon, shredded the receiver, and tore across his bicep. He retreated through the side door. Maya grabbed a jerry can of fuel, splashed it along a pile of dusty crates, and tossed in a road flare. Fire roared up the walls. Smoke billowed through every crack. Under cover of the chaos, she dragged Jessica to the back exit, vaulted a ditch, and hustled toward her hidden truck. Flames climbed skyward, obscuring their escape in flickering orange haze. Dawn painted the Appalachian foothills in watercolor pastels as Maya drove east on winding mountain roads. Jessica sat wrapped in a wool blanket, silent but alert, processing trauma with a journalist's analytical mind. After 2 hours on increasingly primitive roads, they reached a moss-covered cabin wedged between limestone bluffs, the kind of place cartographers forgot. Phoenix listening post, Maya explained, unlocking a warped wooden door. Inside, Dust, but no decay. Ammunition cans, medical supplies, ration packs sealed in mylar. A sanctuary preserved in amber. While Jessica explored in amazement, Maya stoked a wood stove and laid out field dressings. She guided her niece through cleaning the shoulder wound, stapling muscle and skin with a handheld surgical device. First lesson, Maya murmured between controlled breaths. Pain is data. Use it or ignore it. Never fear it. Jessica's hands trembled. I thought they'd execute me on camera. Kane would have tried. He likes theater. Now he has smoke instead. They shared instant coffee and comfortable silence. Then Maya opened a footlocker and produced a battered HF transceiver. She tapped a 3-pulse Morse sequence. Phoenix 77. Years ago, it had functioned as a still-alive code among unit survivors. Maya doubted anyone still monitored the frequency, but hope, like rust, lingered. 5 minutes later, a reply chirped through static. 77. Copy. Phoenix. Maya's breath caught. Rangers alive, she whispered. Before dawn, a silhouette hiked the switchback trail to the cabin. Tall, broad-shouldered, carrying no visible weapons yet moving like armed readiness itself. Thomas Ranger Reed stepped into the lamplight, beard streaked with gray, eyes sharp despite fatigue. Phoenix, he called softly. Ranger, she answered. They embraced briefly, fiercely. Years dissolved in the contact. Jessica stood at the threshold, speechless. Heard your name surface, Ranger told Maya. Didn't think you'd need backup this fast. Jessica managed a wry smile. Stories have a way of swallowing the storyteller. Ranger unrolled a waterproof pouch onto the table. Blueprints of Titan Defense Headquarters, drone telemetry, classified diagnostic logs. Pulled this from a contractor who owed me a favor, he said. Kane moved his live demonstration up 72 hours. He thinks a public spectacle will drown the Phoenix legend. Maya studied the satellite images. He's right about spectacle. Wrong about outcome. If we wait, Ranger warned, he'll track thermal signatures out here. Send a full team, not just 4 guns. Jessica placed both hands on her notebook. Then we drag the truth onto his main stage. She looked at Maya, voice steady. I'll broadcast everything we have during the demonstration. You two keep me alive long enough to hit upload. Maya chambered a fresh magazine into the M14, the metallic click echoing through timber walls. Pain still glimmered in her shoulder, but her resolve was diamond hard. We've been hunted long enough, she said. Now we hunt. The decision settled over them like the weight of loaded steel. Outside, wind sighed through leafless branches, carrying the scent of distant rain. Inside, 3 fugitives plotted an assault on a fortress, armed with an aging rifle, a cache of secrets, and a conviction no algorithm could predict. Somewhere in a glass tower, Alexander Kane believed he had extinguished every spark of Phoenix's legend. But in a moss-covered cabin under Appalachia's silent ridges, that legend racked a final round and took aim at the truth. Jessica wrote by kerosene lamplight for 6 straight days, transforming fragments of testimony and redacted cables into scenes no censor could erase. Maya sat beside the wood stove, marking margins sparingly, crossing out real code names, replacing geographic coordinates, shifting operational details just enough to protect the innocent, while preserving the essential truth. They titled the manuscript, Phoenix Protocol. If the world refused to admit Maya existed, it would have to reckon with her legend. Using a satellite uplink, Jessica uploaded encrypted files to 3 independent publishers under the pen name The Silent Witness. Phoenix Protocol appeared on an obscure digital storefront at 3:00 a.m. on a Tuesday. 48 hours later, the book infiltrated military forums like digital wildfire. Veterans consumed chapters like contraband, finding details too precise to be fiction. The tactical procedures matched classified doctrine. The weapon systems cited had been issued only to elite units. Geographic descriptions aligned with declassified satellite imagery. Hashtags multiplied. Hashtag Phoenix exists. Hashtag Silent Hero. Hashtag Truth in Fiction. Anonymous users began sharing confirmation through coded language, half jokes, half verification, forming a lattice of authentication stronger than any government document. A week later, the Houston Chronicle ran an op-ed titled Phoenix, Legend, Liar, or Smoking Gun. Investigative reporters cross-reference the novel's fictional casualty figures with dormant Pentagon casualty reports. Reddit spawned r/Phoenix Protocol, where armchair analysts plotted satellite images against passages describing Middle Eastern geography. From their cabin, Ranger monitored the digital wildfire. "You lit the fuse," he told Jessica. "Now let's see which powder kegs explode first." Meanwhile, in Titan Defense's Chrome headquarters, Alexander Kane slammed through overnight media alerts. The headline that paralyzed him read, "Phoenix Protocol sparks veteran uprising." The excerpt beneath described a CIA field commander codenamed Titan who ordered airstrikes on humanitarian outposts. Direct quotes matched lines Kane remembered shouting across encrypted communications in the desert. Kane swept the laptop off his desk. "She's turning into a martyr," he snarled. His communications chief tried reason. "Sir, the book is officially fiction. If we react, we authenticate it." But investors were already calling, demanding explanations. Was Operation Desert Storm real? Did Kane order strikes on civilians? The novel suggested more than tribal infighting. It implied war crimes. Kane barked denials until his phone battery died. But the damage was spreading like a digital virus. Veterans kept reposting passages, layering lived experience over algorithmic doubt. Kane's solution was characteristically aggressive, overwhelmed the narrative with spectacle. He moved Titan's crown jewel demonstration to Richmond Military Complex, inviting every defense reporter, Pentagon official, and weapons buyer who mattered. The centerpiece was Helix 9, an AI-assisted sniper platform that promised to revolutionize warfare. Gleaming black metal, predictive targeting systems, autonomous fire control, the future of conflict wrapped in carbon fiber and marketing. "Human era ends here," proclaimed the promotional video that saturated military networks. Kane's plan was elegant in its cynicism. Stage a public contest between flesh and silicon, then declare technology the winner. Any self-proclaimed legends foolish enough to challenge his machine would be humiliated on live television. The Phoenix myth would die under the weight of modern superiority. "We dare any marksman in North America to outshoot Helix 9, Kane announced at a press conference. Even self-proclaimed ghosts. Media engagement spiked immediately. Within hours, ticket requests doubled. CNN booked a live broadcast truck. The demonstration had transformed from product launch to gladiatorial spectacle. In their mountain hideout, Maya watched Kane's promotional trailer with analytical calm. Jessica noted the shooting positions, camera angles, the convenient lack of overhead cover. "They're counting on a weapons malfunction," Jessica observed. "A lethal one they'll blame on software glitches." Maya set down her coffee mug. "If I stay silent, he declares victory over a myth. If I walk into his arena, he tries to erase me again." She looked at Ranger. Option 3. Ranger spread Kane's blueprints across the table. Underground service tunnels, a media backup server, the VIP observation deck suspended above the range. Expose his insurance files, Ranger suggested. Turn the broadcast against him. Jessica's eyes brightened. Hack the live feed. Inject the desert audio, drone footage, everything. Let millions watch him freeze on camera. Maya nodded once, decisions settling like rounds in a chamber. We crash his coronation. The Helix 9 proving ground resembled a technology exposition more than a weapons range. Banners in Titan blue rippled above rows of folding chairs, while satellite trucks broadcast Kane's moment of triumph to defense networks worldwide. Backstage, Kane adjusted his cufflinks in a sliver of mirror, rehearsing a smile that felt welded to his jaw. The script on his tablet opened with "Clean warfare, zero collateral damage." He tapped it once, closed the screen, and exhaled through clenched teeth. Across the compound, Jessica blended into a cluster of audiovisual technicians, her badge reading StreamUp/Feed Tech. Nobody questioned the woman carrying fiber optic cable. Live productions spawned new assistants every hour. Inside the production van, she slotted a palm-sized transmitter into an open port on the outbound line. A green LED winked to life, her back door into every display screen on site. 3 stories underground, Maya and her new ally moved through concrete corridors lit by red emergency strips. Jackson Cole, the operative Kane had sent to eliminate them, now guided them through Titan's digital vault, his security clearance opening biometric locks that should have kept the truth buried forever. Cole's betrayal had crystallized during their mountain cabin confrontation. Recognition of an old debt. Maya had saved his life in Syria, 2012. One impossible shot across 900 meters of smoke and chaos. When Kane ordered him to eliminate his savior, Cole chose honor over paycheck. Level -3. Cole whispered as hydraulic doors groaned open. Here's where Kane keeps his insurance policies. The archive was a cathedral of secrets, floor-to-ceiling racks of armored drives, each tagged with an operation code. Green glow strips illuminated labels that read like a war criminal's confession. Cole led them to a steel case labeled Desert Storm, Master Reel. Maya popped the latches, revealing rugged SSD arrays. On a nearby console, she cued the index file. The screen filled with drone footage, infrared silhouettes of children playing soccer, kicking a ball between makeshift goalposts. Then Kane's voice, crisp and clear over military comms. No heat signatures above adolescent. Doesn't matter. Execute the strike. A second clip showed Maya's younger self abandoning her sniper's perch, sprinting into tracer fire, scooping a child under one arm while bullets sparked the dirt around her boots. Cole watched in silence. "Take spine to break an order like that," he said. "Children aren't orders," Maya replied quietly. She slotted a thumb drive and began the transfer, simultaneously pinging Jessica's relay. In the broadcast van, Jessica saw a progress bar bloom. Desert Storm footage, 100% complete. She routed the files into the graphics pipeline, overlaying a single frame of black to mask the handoff. Her thumb hovered above the deployment key while an audio feed counted down Kane's entrance. 5, 4, 3. Jessica pressed eject. Kane strode onto the center stage, flanked by Helix 9's carbon fiber gleam, his practiced smile radiating confidence. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we usher in the era of surgical warfare. Liberated from human error." The 40-foot LED screen behind him crackled momentarily, flashed static, then resolved into grainy green drone imagery. A timestamp read May 2010, 03:17 Kane froze mid-sentence. Audio boomed through the pavilion's speakers. "Confirm target lock. Fire at will, sir. There are children down there. Repeat, minors in blast radius. This is not your concern. Execute the strike." Gasps rippled across the VIP stands. The video cut to thermal footage of a lone soldier, Maya's outline bright white against cooling sand, shepherding children toward safety while explosions cratered the compound behind her. Silence heavier than artillery settled over the demonstration. Then phones rose like an electronic forest, capturing social media's newest firestorm in real time. On the VIP row, a Pentagon acquisitions officer turned to her aide. "Get JAG on the line. Verify everything." Kane's throat clicked. He spun toward the control booth, searching for a technician to kill the feed, but every screen in the pavilion now played the same incriminating footage. Someone had hardwired the signal directly into the broadcast backbone. There was no off switch. Security teams scrambled, but Maya and Cole had already slipped through a maintenance passage and out a side gate, By the time Kane reached the parking lot, an ATV was tearing across scrubland toward the tree line, carrying his past into an uncertain future. The viral footage propagated faster than any press embargo. Within an hour, #Phoenix Protocol trended #1 worldwide, eclipsing Helix 9 entirely. News anchors interrupted programming to discuss what military analysts called the most catastrophic brand implosion in defense industry history. 48 hours after Richmond, America woke to breaking news banners that refused to fade. CNN opened with Maya's scarred face shielding children in a sandstorm, captioned, "Phoenix has a name, Maya Rodriguez." The Washington Post devoted its entire front page to a single sentence in 96-point type. She died protecting what she lived defending. At a hastily arranged Pentagon briefing, 4-star General Marcus Halverson faced cameras with eyes rimmed by fatigue. "Master Sergeant Maya Rodriguez," he said, pronouncing each syllable like carving it into stone, served with an unacknowledged Delta detachment, known internally as Phoenix Force. In May 2010, she disobeyed an unlawful strike order on civilian targets. Her record was subsequently expunged. That erasure ends today. Behind him, screens cycled through files salvaged from Titan's vault. Kane's audio order to eliminate all movement, drone footage of children in soccer jerseys, grainy clips of Maya sprinting through tracer fire. Networks replayed the footage until it felt older than the flag itself. Veteran halls filled first. The American Legion issued a rare midnight communique. Phoenix stands for every service member who carried conscience into darkness. On forums once thick with gallows humor, usernames long anonymous stepped into daylight. Overwatch_6. She spotted threats none of us could see. Phoenix saved my squad in Kandahar. Desert_medic. If Maya hadn't covered our extraction, I'd be a name on a memorial wall. Within hours, #PhoenixRising trended across platforms in 34 languages. Soldiers posted selfies in battered field caps, marked MR. Teenagers shared the 5-second Liberty Arms clip. Maya lowering her rifle and murmuring, "Thanks for the opportunity, asked Shorthan for speaking truth to power." Congress felt the pressure immediately. A bipartisan group of senators demanded hearings. How does an American hero vanish for 15 years? When crowds gathered outside Eagle Point shooting complex, management draped its entrance with camouflage netting and lilies. A handwritten placard read, "She shot here. We remember." 1 week later, the Department of Defense issued a formal reversal. Rank reinstated. Master Sergeant, United States Army Unit. Special Forces Operational Detachment. Phoenix decorations. Distinguished Service Cross. Posthumous upgrade to Medal of Honor pending Senate approval. Citation. For conspicuous gallantry in defense of non-combatants at personal peril. The Pentagon's Hall of Warriors unveiled a bronze plaque etched with Maya's final words. "She chose right over orders and paid the price for all of us." Eagle Point rededicated its longest lane as Rodriguez Range. Netflix and PBS simultaneously announced competing documentaries. Within a month, Phoenix Protocol topped global bestseller lists. Alexander Kane, meanwhile, faced a 6-count federal indictment. War crimes, evidence destruction, conspiracy to commit murder. His arraignment drew the largest protest outside Fort Belvoir since Vietnam. Prosecutors entered Exhibit A, the Richmond footage he himself had financed. Maya's body lay in state for one night in the Mississippi town she'd fled as a teenager. Locals pressed rifle cartridges into the casket lining, one for each child she'd saved. At dawn, a riderless horse led the procession to the Hilltop Cemetery. A 21-gun salute cracked across soybean fields that stretched to the horizon. The funeral became a pilgrimage. Veterans flew in from across the continent. Gold Star mothers laid flowers beside the grave. A retired Delta colonel told reporters, "She broke the rule because the rule was wrong." Online remembrance transformed into movement. Jessica converted Phoenix Protocol's royalties into a scholarship fund for veterans pursuing investigative journalism. In its first week, donations topped $2 million. The gray-haired sergeant major who trained Maya posted on a military forum. I never cried when buddies fell. Today I cried because a ghost finally walked into the sun and didn't live to feel its warmth. 6 months later, Jessica stood before Congress, clutching Maya's field notebook. In the hearing room, the usual murmur of aides and reporters had fallen into respectful silence. She opened to a page Maya had marked with a greased pencil star and read aloud. A bullet doesn't stop at the target. It passes through tomorrow's headlines, a child's dreams, a soldier's sleep. Never fire unless you're prepared to carry all of them. She closed the notebook. Master Sergeant Maya Rodriguez was branded a rogue for honoring those words. She told the panel. She didn't break her oath. She fulfilled it. Your task is to make sure no one ever has to disappear to keep that oath again. The statement ignited legislative action. Within a week, the draft Phoenix Act gained 70 bipartisan co-sponsors. It mandated ethical decision modules in advanced weapons training and funded veteran mentorship programs, pairing tactical expertise with lessons on moral restraint. Jessica expected pushback. Instead, she received 8,000 messages in 21 days. A retired lieutenant wrote, "Thought I'd forgotten how to teach, but your aunt reminded me why I should." The most moving note arrived by certified mail. A crayon drawing of a white-haired woman shielding stick-figure children. Underneath, a 6-year-old from Mississippi had printed, "She's a superhero who doesn't need a cape." Jessica pinned it above her desk and cried for the first time since the mountain rescue. The letters all posed the same question. Where can we train for wisdom as well as aim? Jessica realized the answer had to be built, not found. She pooled every royalty dollar from Phoenix Protocol with an anonymous foundation grant, purchasing Maya's old West Virginia safe house and the adjoining valley once used for classified rehearsals. Bulldozers carved a 600-yard range where deer had grazed. Volunteers strung Ethernet through hardwood rafters that still smelled of Maya's coffee and gun oil. A cedar sign went up by the dirt road. Phoenix Tactical Institute Wisdom * Ethics * Precision. The facility featured a live fire simulator, a decision analysis classroom, and a circular range where paper silhouettes rotated from combatant to non-combatant at random intervals. Placards at each firing point posed questions in bold letters. Winning at what cost? Who stands behind your target? The brochure made one promise. We do not teach killing. We teach choosing. Applications poured in from across the spectrum. Former infantry seeking purpose. Domestic violence survivors wanting confidence, teenagers trying to understand the burden of strength before Hollywood could romanticize it. Opening day dawned crisp, the valley echoing with birdsong rather than gunfire. Jessica donned hearing protection and greeted the first class, until 3 figures walked through the gate. Ranger reached her first, eyes soft behind weathered crow's feet. Heard the institute needed staff who can still hit minute of responsibility. He joked. With him stood Havoc, master of urban entry and Comet, whose specialty had always been evacuating civilians before the first shot. They unpacked battered equipment cases. No tricked-out competition guns, just service-worn rifles and laminated training drills annotated in red ink. Jessica's throat tightened. She gestured toward the podium, but Ranger shook his head. We're better with actions than speeches. During the ribbon cutting, he said only one sentence pitched to the cluster of wide-eyed students. We're not here to teach you how to take life. We're here to show you how to save yours without losing who you are. Students, some in wheelchairs, some in varsity jackets, applauded like thunder in the Mountain Bowl. That night, Jessica walked the range alone. Fireflies blinked over the berm like green tracers. She knelt by firing point 7, drove a brass marker into the soil, and engraved it with Maya's words. Truth travels farther than any round. Inside the headquarters, Maya's M14 hung above the ethics classroom door. New students touched the wooden stock for luck. Never before a shot, always afterward. A ritual of accountability. On the opposite wall, the 6-year-old's crayon drawing of the white-haired guardian occupied a place of honor, framed in simple pine. Monthly newsletters reported steady progress. 50 women completed the first self-defense cohort. 36 veterans certified as ethical firearms mentors. A rural sheriff's department replaced silhouette drills with Phoenix's decision trees. Each success felt like another brick in a bridge between firepower and conscience. One evening, Jessica found Ranger polishing rifles under a bare bulb. She asked if he missed the old missions. He thought a moment, then said, "Every time I hear a student say, 'Hold fire,' I feel like we just won something none of my past medals ever covered." When the president signed the Phoenix Act, cameras captured the moment, but the institute paused classes only long enough for instructors to watch the live stream and nod. Policy was necessary. Practice was the daily work. On the first anniversary of Maya's death, students hiked to the ridge above the valley at dawn. Jessica read the notebook passage once more, her voice steadier now. Beside her, Ranger fired a single blank into the sky. Less salute than punctuation mark. The students repeated the line Maya had transformed from patronizing dismissal into sacred principle. "Thanks for the opportunity." In their mouths, it became gratitude for the chance to choose well. Jessica looked across the assembled faces, women, men, boys, girls, and saw something Maya would have loved. Possibility disciplined by humility. The myth had anchored itself not in kill counts, but in restraint, in conscience, in the long echo of a single refusal to do the wrong thing. Phoenix was gone, but every slow, deliberate squeeze on this range, every finger lifted before impulse hardened, carried her forward. 5 years later, dawn spilled through pines surrounding the Phoenix Tactical Institute, turning low mist amber. The main range buzzed with disciplined energy. Bolts cycling, shoes crunching gravel, controlled breaths counted off like cadence. Jessica walked the firing line with a clipboard instead of a camera, wearing a plain training jacket with sleeves rolled up, a silver whistle where her press badge used to hang. Each note she made, stance, trigger pull, breathing, felt like writing new verses in a poem Maya had started. At the far bench, a wiry 12-year-old adjusted the stock of a scaled-down rifle. Marley Chen, dark ponytail bouncing, was there on scholarship. Daughter of a former medic who'd driven 12 hours because some lessons can't be streamed online. Marley centered her sights on a steel plate 30 yards away, inhaled halfway, let half of it go, then held. Jessica paused behind her, silent witness. The trigger broke clean. The round rung the plate dead center, second ring. Applause rippled down the line. A couple of veterans whistled approval. Marley's face lit like someone had unscrewed the sun a notch brighter. "I did it," she called, half disbelief, half triumph. Jessica knelt until their eyes met. She picked the spent brass from the gravel and placed it in Marley's palm, warm as a tiny heartbeat. "You did," she said. "But before your next shot, do you remember the rule?" Marley closed her fingers around the case. "A gun isn't a toy," she recited, voice small but sure. "It's a responsibility." Jessica's smile flickered with pride and memory. "Exactly. And knowing when not to fire is harder than any bullseye." Marley's gaze shifted to the mural at the range's end wall. Maya Rodriguez, white hair whipped by desert wind, body shielding a cluster of children. Paint and sunlight made her look perpetually in motion. Phoenix chose not to shoot in the desert, Marley said quietly. Jessica nodded. She wasn't afraid to fall. She was afraid to forget who she was. After a moment, Jessica unclasped a small enamel badge from her wrist. Black phoenix wings, edges worn smooth by years of sweat and gun oil. This belonged to Maya the day she walked into that range and changed everything, she said, pressing it into Marley's hand. "No one can teach you her aim, but you can learn what guided it." Marley's fingers tightened around the phoenix pin. The grin faded into something solemn, older than her freckles. "I promise," she whispered. "I'll never shoot unless I can carry what comes after." Up in the observation loft, Ranger and Havoc watched through safety glass. Havoc exhaled slowly. "We're not training marksmen," he said. "We're training guardians." Ranger's reply was almost lost beneath the next volley. Phoenix never aimed at bodies. She aimed at the line between right and wrong. The session resumed. Commands echoed across the range. Move. Check. Identify. Decide. Shots sounded, each followed by the metallic consonant of impact. An instructor's voice carried on the mountain air. Accuracy without ethics is just noise. Jessica stepped aside, one hand gripping her clipboard, the other smoothing the dog-eared edge of Maya's field notebook tucked in her pocket. Her gaze drifted to the slate wall beyond the berm, where new names had been carved in 6-inch letters. Rodriguez, Maya Phoenix, 1984 to 2025. She chose truth over orders. Morning wind slipped over the ridge, rustling pine needles and scattering the smell of cordite. It lifted the corner of Jessica's notes and set a lone brass casing rolling until it struck her boot. One more reminder that echoes travel. She closed her eyes and let the sound settle. The crack of rifles, the tidy ping of steel, instructors repeating Maya's creed. The institute hummed like a forge, tempering will into wisdom. "Thanks for the opportunity," she whispered, and opened her eyes on a world where the shot her aunt never took was still carving a cleaner trajectory for everyone who followed. The legend lived on, quiet, unbreakable, unforgettable. In that pulled lamplight years ago, 2 women had formed the barrel and the round, one guiding, one in motion. Now the bullet was finally finding its mark, not in flesh but in principle, not in death but in the courage to choose life. Maya Rodriguez had fired her final round not from a rifle, but from the truth. And that round would keep flying, punching neat holes through walls of silence, until every soldier, every citizen, every child with a choice to make would hear its whisper. Some battles are won by refusing to fight the wrong war. The Phoenix had risen from her own ashes, wings spread wide enough to shelter a generation learning that the greatest victory isn't the shot you make. It's the shot you don't take when taking it would cost you your soul. In the end, Maya's most impossible shot had been the one she held back, saving not just 13 children in a desert, but the conscience of everyone who would follow her example. The echo of that restraint would outlive them all. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and become a part of our Everyday Life Stories community. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. We love hearing from our amazing viewers around the world.